I greet you from a place of deep respect for those who return day after day, eager to explore the hidden truths behind some of the most perplexing crimes our world has to offer. If you appreciate the time and care that goes into producing these stories, please consider subscribing. Your support allows me to continue digging into the darkest corners, bringing clarity where confusion reigns. Feel free to hit that notification bell to be reminded the moment a new episode goes live. Now, let us transition into the heart of today's story. A case that, in 2015, rattles a peaceful Florida community to its core. This is the story of Dr. Teresa Sievers, a beloved physician who meets a horrifying end, and the husband who soon emerges from the shadows as a puppet master, orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot that defies belief. It is the early morning hours of June 29, 2015, and the sun is not yet awake over the sleepy community of Bonita Springs, Florida. The Gulf Coast air hangs thick and humid, the kind of atmosphere that makes even the nighttime hours feel stifling. It rained lightly a few hours before, leaving the pavement damp and the gardens glistening under the glow of sparse streetlights. There is a quiet stillness now, punctuated by the distant hum of an air conditioner kicking into gear, and the faint rustle of palm fronds in the breeze. This is a time when most families rest, secure within their homes, the last place one would expect violence to erupt. But behind one particular front door, on Jarvis Road, an entirely different reality is unfolding. The home belongs to Dr. Teresa Sievers, a respected holistic physician known for her boundless energy and radiant smile. Tonight, she is alone. Her husband Mark Sievers and their daughters remain out of town, extending a family visit in Connecticut. Teresa has returned early, the dedicated doctor always trying to keep her practice running smoothly. She moves about her kitchen, putting away groceries, possibly checking her schedule for the coming morning, not knowing that she is being watched, not knowing that her final moments of life are ticking down. The Florida night is dark, and a faint moonlight slips through the blinds, casting shadows across the tile floor. No one hears the quiet steps of intruders, no one witnesses the final moments before brutality shatters the domestic peace. Across the street, a neighbor's dog barks once, then goes silent, as if sensing something amiss. The air grows heavier. Within hours, Dr. Teresa Sievers will be discovered bludgeoned to death. Her life ended in a sudden, explosive act of violence. Just hours before, Teresa is wrapping up her trip up north. On June 28, 2015, Teresa and Mark have been visiting family in Connecticut. Teresa needs to get back. Her patients rely on her. She boards a Sunday flight alone, leaving Mark and their two daughters behind to enjoy a couple more days away. She lands at Southwest Florida International Airport late in the evening. Witnesses recall seeing her hurry through the terminal, suitcase in tow, her long brown hair pulled back neatly, a determined look on her face as she heads for the parking lot. A security guard at the airport later remembers the petite woman in a white blouse and tan slacks, phone in hand, efficiently making her way out to her car. The flight details, the timeline, all check out. Teresa's arrival is confirmed by passenger logs and airport CCTV footage. After picking up her car, Teresa drives about 30 minutes back to Bonita Springs. She might have made a quick phone call to Mark to let him know she arrived safely, though those details remain subject to investigators' later scrutiny. We do know she stops briefly at a convenience store for a bottle of water and some fresh fruit. Receipts and the clerk's memory confirm this. And, around 11 p.m., a security camera from a neighbor's home captures the headlights of her vehicle pulling into the driveway. Shortly thereafter, interior lights switch on. Someone might have seen a silhouette pass by a front window. Nothing seems amiss at that time. Within the next hour, Teresa presumably prepares for bed. She is known to keep a strict schedule: early to rise, early to bed, especially with patients waiting. Her medical clinic, Restorative Health and Healing Center, is set to see several appointments on Monday morning. However, come dawn, when her staff expects her at the office around 8:30 a.m., Teresa does not appear. Calls to her cell phone go unanswered. She takes up the phone call, type written notes for the mission staff members, and alters the caller, removing call icons. At first, Colleagues assume she might have been delayed, perhaps a flight issue or a patient emergency. But as minutes turn into an hour and then two, a creeping sense of unease sets in. Concerned, her office manager calls Mark Sievers. He is still out of state, but this seems out of character. Teresa is punctual to a fault, always emphasizing health, discipline, and consistency in every aspect of her life. Mark tries to reach his wife but gets no answer. He then calls a friend, a neighbor, asking if they can check the house. The friend is reluctant but concerned enough to drive over. By mid-morning on June 29, the friend parks in front of the Sievers residence. It is quiet, with no obvious signs of trouble. The friend knocks but receives no response. After a tense hesitation, the friend steps into the home and makes a discovery that will forever haunt the tight-knit community. Dr. Teresa Sievers lies on the kitchen floor, lifeless, her skull crushed by what appears to be a hammer. The friend rushes out in panic and calls 911, voice trembling, heart racing, entirely unprepared for the scene left behind. Authorities arrive swiftly. Local sheriff's deputies and emergency medical personnel converge on the Sievers home. Blue and red lights paint the early afternoon shadows against stucco walls and well-kept lawns. Neighbors peer from behind curtains and cracked doors, confusion and fear playing on their faces. By 1 p.m., investigators have cordoned off the home. Yellow police tape flutters in the Florida breeze, standing stark against the sunny facade of a suburban paradise. The word spreads quickly. A respected doctor, a mother of two, is dead in her own kitchen. What kind of monster could commit such an act? And, as detectives start their work, many recall the victim's warmth and vibrant personality. Teresa Sievers is born Teresa Tottenham, growing up in a close-knit family environment. Her parents instill values of hard work, compassion, and resilience. She spends her childhood in Connecticut, a state known for its picturesque small towns and close communities. As a child, Teresa shows an early aptitude for science and a remarkable sense of empathy. Family members remember her bringing home injured birds, always trying to nurse them back to health, or comforting other children who scrape their knees on the playground. Over the years, Teresa develops a strong interest in medicine. Guided in part by family tradition, there are distant relatives who have worked in healthcare, mentors who encourage her, teachers who see promise in her bright eyes and inquisitive mind. She attends public schools and excels academically, often remaining late after class to help classmates struggling with their homework. By the time she is in high school, Teresa's path seems set. She wants to heal people, to understand the intricate connections between mind, body, and spirit. College brings her a chance to explore this passion more deeply. She attends medical school after excelling in her undergraduate studies. During these formative years, Teresa carves out a reputation as a diligent, caring student. She shows an interest in not just conventional medicine, but also alternative approaches, believing that whole-person care, addressing nutrition, mindset, environmental factors, can be transformative. She completes her medical degree and residency with high honors, praised by supervisors for her bedside manner, thorough diagnostic skills, and dedication to patient education. After meeting Mark Sievers, through mutual friends as the story often goes, Teresa's life appears to take on a kind of fairy tale narrative. Mark shares her interest in wellness and spiritual growth. They marry and decide to settle in Southwest Florida, drawn by the warm weather, the laid-back lifestyle, and the growing community that embraces holistic healing. While subsequent shows broadcast on television, they enthusiastically describe Mark's life as a relatively peaceful and limitless world. Teresa opens a practice, Restorative Health and Healing Center, where she treats patients with a blend of traditional and integrative medicine. She becomes popular in the community, known for her willingness to spend extra time discussing lifestyle changes, offering encouragement for those facing complex health challenges, and hosting seminars on personal well-being. In addition to her medical career, Teresa has big dreams. She plans to expand her practice, maybe open a second location, or write a book to guide others on paths to better health. Her colleagues admire her tenacity, her patience, adore her kindness. A future of professional growth and community influence seems guaranteed. Family life is equally vibrant. Teresa and Mark have 2 daughters, both young at the time of the tragedy. By all outward appearances, the couple is happy. They attend neighborhood barbecues, school functions, and community charity drives. Photographs show Teresa smiling widely next to Mark, who often stands behind her with a protective arm around her shoulders. But few know what truly goes on behind closed doors in any family. The external images show a warm, loving household, daughters playing in the yard, Teresa in her white coat at the clinic, Mark handling the office's technical side. Extended family from up north visit periodically, delighted to see how the Sievers are flourishing in Florida. Teresa's social life is busy. She loves yoga on the beach, a habit she picks up soon after moving to Florida. She enjoys organizing weekend outings with friends, fishing trips, paddleboarding adventures, or simply strolling through the local farmers market. She stays active, frequently attending conferences and networking events. Neighbors see her jogging early in the morning, ponytail bobbing as she makes her way through quiet cul-de-sacs. Friends describe her as both grounded and driven, a rare combination that makes her instantly likable. On the final day of Teresa's life, June 28, 2015, her morning in Connecticut is routine. She wakes early, as always. She shares coffee with Mark and the girls, who plan to stay behind for another day or two. Teresa checks her calendar, noting patient names, reminding herself which charts need updates. The day is warm, the skies over Connecticut clear. She might say goodbye with a quick hug, a kiss on each daughter's forehead, a reminder to behave and help their father with whatever he needs. Mark and Teresa part ways with no hint of the darkness to come. She heads to the airport around noon, weaving through light traffic, her mind likely on the tasks awaiting her at home. The afternoon passes as Teresa makes her way through security at Bradley International Airport. She grabs a light lunch, perhaps a salad or a wrap, before boarding the flight to Fort Myers. The flight itself is uneventful. A fellow passenger later recalls the polite doctor reading a medical journal. There are no signs of agitation or worry. If Teresa senses any danger, it does not show. By early evening, Teresa is in Florida. She picks up her car from the long-term parking area. Outside, the weather is humid and heavy, typical for a Florida summer evening. Back at home, everything waits exactly as she left it. Tidy rooms, stacked mail, a refrigerator partially stocked. She likely plans her Monday: patient consultations, administrative tasks, maybe a trip to the health food store for supplies. These are normal, comforting routines that define her everyday life. But somewhere in the background, unseen to Teresa, events are lining up in a deadly sequence. In the hours after midnight leading into June 29th, as Teresa sleeps or perhaps finishes a late chore, intruders lurk. The exact timeline is pieced together later through phone records, traffic cameras, and testimony. She does not know that her husband Mark is at the center of an unfathomable betrayal. Morning comes, and Teresa's absence at the clinic sets off alarms. It is now late morning on June 29, and the office tries in vain to reach her. The first concern is mild, maybe a car problem, maybe she overslept due to travel fatigue. But as more time passes, that concern snowballs into dread. Her colleague calls Mark around 10 a.m. Mark expresses worry. This is unlike Teresa. By 11 a.m., a friend heads to the Sievers' home. Entering the home around 11:30 a.m., the friend steps into quiet stillness. No voices call out. A sharp contrast to Teresa's warm and lively presence greets them. They find Teresa on the kitchen floor. The sight is terrifying. Blood pools beneath her head, and her body lies at an unnatural angle. The friend rushes outside, panicked, calling emergency services. Within minutes, the first patrol car arrives, siren wailing. The reality is grim. Dr. Teresa Sievers is dead. The cause is obvious and brutal. Multiple blows to the skull, likely from a hammer. Detectives will later confirm it as a homicide scene, staged with disturbing coldness. Law enforcement immediately sets into motion standard procedures. Deputies from the Lee County Sheriff's Office secure the area. Crime scene investigators enter wearing gloves and booties to avoid contamination. They photograph the scene meticulously. Every spat of blood, every footprint, every displaced object. They talk to neighbors, check for doorbell camera footage, and review cell phone towers for pings that might indicate the presence of unknown individuals. Teresa's body is respectfully removed and sent for autopsy. The forensics team collects her personal laptop, her mobile phone, and any financial or business records on hand. They will later perform digital forensics to understand her last communications. As the day progresses, media outlets pick up the story. Initially, it is a local headline: "Beloved Bonita Springs doctor found murdered in her home." The community reacts with a mixture of disbelief and fear. Interviews with shocked patients reveal the impact of her death. "Dr. Sievers changed my life," one patient says on local TV. "She helped me find a holistic path to managing my chronic pain. I can't imagine someone harming her." The sentiment is echoed across the community. Online, residents start sharing prayers and condolences. A small memorial appears outside her clinic within a day. Flowers, candles, handwritten notes with messages of love and disbelief line the sidewalk. The family, meanwhile, is in a state of shock. Mark Sievers returns to Florida promptly, escorted by concerned relatives, visibly upset. He cooperates with initial police requests, providing statements about his whereabouts and the family's travel schedule. "I can't believe this happened," he tells a reporter when approached. "Teresa was my world." Within days, local newspapers and TV channels devote significant airtime to the murder. Tips trickle into the sheriff's office. Some claim to have seen a suspicious van that night. Others report hearing strange noises. Investigators juggle a flood of information, racing against time to piece together what happened. Early theories abound. Was it a burglary gone wrong? A random home invasion? A disgruntled patient? Detectives must keep their minds open to all possibilities. The investigation gains traction as detectives comb through Teresa's life. They study her background, her phone records, her emails and clinic appointments. They interview Mark at length, probing for any details that might explain who would want Teresa dead. They speak with neighbors who recall seeing Teresa's car return late Sunday night. Some mention hearing a car door slam in the early hours. Others recall unfamiliar faces near the property days earlier. The evidence is sparse but starting to paint a picture. Within weeks, technology proves invaluable. Investigators recover deleted texts, trace phone calls, and analyze cell tower data. They identify suspicious communications between Mark Sievers and two men from Missouri, Curtis Wayne Wright and Jimmy Rogers. Wright is an old friend of Mark's, and their phone records reveal an unusual spike in communication leading up to the murder. Wayne Wright is the voice of Holmes' oldest friend and Mark's mother's brother. Bank statements raise eyebrows. Recent changes to Teresa's life insurance policies. Signed papers. Financial stressors that do not align with the image of a happy marriage. A break comes when digital forensics confirm that Wright and Rogers traveled to Florida around the time of the murder. They rented a car, their toll booth records and gas station receipts placing them near Bonita Springs, in the crucial time frame. Surveillance footage from a Walmart shows them purchasing items similar to those found at the crime scene. The evidence begins to pile up, and a shocking narrative emerges. Mark Sievers, the grieving husband, may have orchestrated his own wife's killing. Detectives work painstakingly to gather irrefutable proof. They consult experts on mobile phone triangulation, reconstructing the suspect's movements hour by hour. They use advanced DNA analysis on items recovered at the scene. They talk to acquaintances of Wright and Rogers, who describe the men's trip to Florida as suspicious and hurried. Investigators face hurdles along the way. Some witnesses are reluctant to talk. Documents are missing pieces, and piecing together the timeline requires enormous effort. But, methodically, they build their case. The media intensifies its coverage as rumors swirl about a possible murder-for-hire plot. The public demands answers. Family members on both sides struggle to make sense of the allegations. "I never imagined Mark could be involved," a distant relative of Teresa's says, tears in their eyes. The community that once saw Mark and Teresa as a loving couple is now baffled, wondering what motive could drive such a heinous betrayal. Eventually, after months of careful investigation, authorities make their move. In late 2015, Curtis Wayne Wright and Jimmy Rogers are arrested, charged with the murder of Teresa Sievers. Soon after, Mark Sievers is taken into custody, accused of masterminding the plan. The arrests send shockwaves through the community. News outlets flash Mark's mugshot beside photos of Teresa, smiling in happier times. The man who claimed to love her, who stood before cameras pleading for answers, now stands accused of plotting her violent demise. Next question. As legal proceedings begin, Mark Sievers appears stoic, flanked by attorneys. The charges are severe: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder. Prosecutors are confident in their case, citing a mountain of digital evidence and testimony. Wright, once Mark's close friend, agrees to testify against him in exchange for a plea deal. Rogers maintains some level of denial or confusion, but prosecutors say the evidence speaks for itself. The trial captures national attention. Courtrooms fill with reporters, true crime enthusiasts, and members of the Sievers family. Expert witnesses describe phone records, digital footprints, and financial documents that form a damning picture. Prosecutors lay out the alleged motive. Mark Sievers feared losing control over finances and the family's future, or possibly another strain in the marriage. The life insurance policy, recently increased, stands out as a glaring motive. Testimonies from Teresa's co-workers and friends highlight her kindness, talent, and dedication to healing. The emotional weight in the courtroom is palpable. Jurors listen intently as prosecutors show images of the crime scene, carefully edited to avoid unnecessary gore, yet still conveying the horror. The defense tries to raise doubts, questioning the credibility of Wright's testimony and the interpretation of digital evidence. But piece by piece, the prosecution dismantles these defenses. After a tense trial, the jury deliberates. They return with a verdict: guilty. Mark Sievers is found guilty of orchestrating the murder of his wife. The judge, stern and compassionate, reads the sentence. Mark Sievers receives the ultimate punishment under Florida law: death. Wright and Rogers also face severe consequences, with Wright's plea deal granting him a reduced sentence, but a life behind bars nonetheless. Rogers is found guilty of second-degree murder and receives a lengthy prison term. The legal chapter closes, but the impact of the crime lingers. For Teresa's immediate family, the loss is immeasurable. Her daughters grow up without their mother's nurturing presence. They must navigate the world carrying the weight of this tragedy. Extended family members step in to provide love and stability, working with counselors and support groups to help the girls understand that what happened had nothing to do with them. Mark's betrayal cuts deep, leaving emotional scars that will never fully heal. The community, too, feels the ripple effects. Bonita Springs residents remember Teresa's contributions. In the months following the trial, a scholarship fund is established in her name for students pursuing careers in holistic medicine. The clinic where Teresa once worked eventually reopens under new management, continuing her vision of integrated health, honoring her memory through compassionate patient care. Candlelight vigils, public memorials, and yearly remembrance events become a tradition, a way of keeping Teresa's legacy of healing alive. The media coverage of the case prompts discussions about domestic violence, hidden marital troubles, and the warning signs that sometimes go unheeded. Advocacy groups use this case to highlight the importance of open dialogue, counseling, and recognizing red flags within relationships. The tragedy inspires community members to become more involved in their neighbors' lives, fostering a sense of connection and watchfulness. Neighborhood watch programs grow stronger, public safety seminars become more common, and local police improve community outreach. On a larger scale, the case encourages policy debates about life insurance regulations, background checks, and the use of digital evidence in criminal trials. Law enforcement agencies continue refining their forensic technologies, ensuring that in the future, crimes like this leave fewer unanswered questions. Lawyers, journalists, and criminal justice students study the Sievers murder as a case study in digital forensics, conspiracy investigations, and the psychological complexities of domestic homicide. In the end, the story of Dr. Teresa Sievers reminds us that evil can lurk behind even the most radiant smiles, and that trust and betrayal can intersect in unimaginable ways. It tells us that communities can be shaken to their core, yet find ways to heal and remember the best among them. Teresa's life stands for compassion, medical innovation, and a drive to improve the well-being of others. Her death stands as a cautionary tale, a call to remain vigilant and demand justice when the unthinkable occurs. As we conclude this story, let us reflect on the implications. Teresa Sievers' murder shows how hidden motives, careful planning, and digital footprints can converge to expose even the most cunning criminals. Her legacy lives on in the hearts she touched, and the lessons learned by a community that refuses to let violence define it. We must remember to value human life, to trust our instincts, and to look out for one another. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories delving deep into cases that challenge our understanding of human nature. Feel free to comment below with your thoughts, theories, and reflections on this case. And if you are interested in similar cases, consider exploring the story of the Pettit family in Cheshire, Connecticut, or the infamous murder of Sherry Rasmussen in Los Angeles. Together, we continue to question, to learn, and to strive for a world where violence is not tolerated and truth always prevails.